So good morning, everybody. My name is Russ Fitzpatrick, one of the founders of the Annie Mac Works productivity platform, operating in 32 different states, and certainly the catalyst for mortgage relationships in Georgia for Southeast Mortgage in Georgia, but Annie Mac Home Mortgage being the prime sponsor in 32 states. I am on the tail end of the worst walking pneumonia / bronchitis fit I've ever had. 3 weeks now I've been fighting this, so please forgive me if I hit the cough button a little more often today, but I feel like I'm on the end of the the opportunity to have a clear lungs for the first time since Christmas, so apologize if I sound a little hoarse still. The opportunity that exists for us to work together. I mean, I see names on here. I see broker owners in attendance today in Jacksonville, Manhattan, Central Pennsylvania, Georgia, Outer Banks of North Carolina. I see brokers from Maryland, Indiana. I see brokers from Washington State and Oregon and Arizona right now. Don't you think we all have the same challenges? Don't you think we all have the same don't you think we all have the same objectives ultimately? Now, we all have a different brand, we all have a different opinion, but we all have the same end goal: per person productivity and bringing in more talent. If I had one wish for the National Flagship Brokers, if I had a wish for our relationship during 2015, it was that we would work together more closely, that we is better than me, that we is better than I, that there's no way you could convince me that John or Jesse or Joe couldn't share things with each other that, you know, one does better, and that it could become a camaraderie of brokers across the country. I mean, I think national franchise companies kind of should do that. But more often than not, it's a competitive landscape rather than an environment of sharing. So I invite you to not only join the National Flagship Brokers, but actually post some things. Post a question. Post a challenge that you're facing. Post something that you are proud of in your brokerage on the National Flagship Brokers private page. This is for brokers only, and it gives us an opportunity to share best practices. Several times this year, we're going to invite broker owners to get together to talk about recruitment, retention, productivity, operations efficiencies, and ultimately profitability. My coach and mentor for about 7 of the best years of my life was a guy named Bob McKinnon. Bob McKinnon ran 161 Century 21 offices in California for the better part of his career. He was one of the charter regional owners of the Century 21 model back in the 70s. And he was nice enough to be my coach for 7 of the best years of my life. Bob and I used to say the words, bigger's not better. Better is better. In other words, this concept of growing agent count just for the sake of agent count has proven ineffective. But growing agent count based on a minimum standard of professionalism, a minimum sense of productivity, or at least an intention. You know, when you interview somebody, do they at least have an intent to be productive? Have you ever interviewed somebody and they go, yeah, I'm full-time at my job, I don't really care, I just want to hang my license somewhere, and then you hire them anyway? I mean, you want to create customer service problems in America, you want to create customer service problems in the real estate industry, hire people that are apathetic or don't even believe that the real estate industry warrants their attention. You know, forget minimum production. I don't care if a mother of 3 does $600,000 a year. if she's committed to being a professional and she's committed to the industry and learning, I'll give her an opportunity. But you give me the same, guy or lady that does $600,000 a year, but she screws up 3 transactions a year to do it, I don't want anything to do with her or him. So bigger's not always better. Better's ultimately better. If you haven't already done so, go to the National Flagship Brokers page on Facebook and request to join. But more importantly than joining, participate with us. I'm not going to mention names because I know that brokers are very competitive, have enormous egos, have a lot at stake. Your capital investment in your organization is fantastic, large investment. Some of you are pot committed, hundreds of thousands of dollars invested in your organizations. So we're not going to share the names, the organizations, the brands that are online today. But what we will do is we'll encourage you to share through the National Flagship Brokers program. Today we're going to accomplish 3 things. We're going to give you a reminder of some of the best recruitment templates in America and where you can access them for free on Facebook. Oh my goodness. Remember, walking pneumonia and bronchitis for 3 weeks, so it's getting old. We're going to spend some time on what I think is the most important hour, the most important 60 minutes in a broker's career, the recruitment presentation, the recruitment appointment. I had a fancy for listing presentations when I was an agent. I used to love the privilege of being invited into an owner's home. The process to go into a prospective seller's home and to build rapport, build credibility, build a mutual respect in the course of a 30 to 50 minute presentation. God, I used to get excited about that mental chess match. And it was fortunate for me that I was attracted to listing presentations. It was fortunate for me that even at 18, 19, 20 years old, 1986, 87, 88, that I liked that challenge. That I liked the opportunity to be invited into a living room. That I was really attracted to it. And then coincidentally, when I finally transitioned to becoming a broker owner of my own facility in 1999 and 2000, I kind of got the same adrenaline rush, the same kick, the same shot of adrenaline that I used to get on listing presentations in the recruitment presentation. Like, I thought that was the cat's meow. I thought that was the most important hour. And it turns out that after now 28 years of being in the real estate industry, it turns out that the recruitment presentation offers the highest return on invested time for a real estate broker, and the listing presentation offers the highest return on invested time for the real estate agent. So I actually, dumb luck, I fell in love with the 2 activities that represented the highest return on invested time for me as a real estate agent, and then subsequently the highest return on invested time for a broker. So I would encourage you to study the listing appointment if you're an agent. And I would encourage you to study the recruitment appointment if you're a broker owner. So today we're going to talk about what should I do in a recruitment appointment. And then we're going to kind of complete the conversation with this formula for recruitment storyboard. Now, if you've seen the recruitment storyboard before, I made a couple changes for 2015. I kind of altered it to give it a little less latitude for interpretation. I kind of simplified it a little bit, if you will. Now, I know that on this call, we have brokers in major metropolitan areas that could manage 300, 400, 500 realtors before they would hit market capacity. And we also have broker owners that are in markets that are a little smaller that might hit market capacity at 16, 18, 20 agents. In other words, 10% of the total agent mix in Jacksonville, listen to what I'm saying, 10% of the total agent mix in Jacksonville could be 2,000 agents. But 10% of the total agent mix in Fayetteville might only be 30 agents. So we don't know what we've got to work with, but we know that there's a pecking order. We know that there's a chain of command in the residential real estate industry. It starts with unlicensed personal assistants and licensed personal assistants. It graduates up the food chain with agents in your office that work buyers as their primary source of income. There's a natural promotion when an agent moves from buyer's agent to listing agent. Do you think that? Do you think that that's a promotion in the real estate industry when you go from being a buyer's agent to being someone who carries more listings? And then just like there's this promotion or this chain of command from unlicensed personal assistant to a listing agent, there's a similar chain of command in brokerage ownership. A broker that still takes out buyers is at one tier. A broker that only manages their agents and lists houses and never ever takes a buyer out is maybe called a listing broker rather than a selling broker. A broker owner who manages agents that list properties and really focuses on their leadership of those listing agents would be termed a team leader. So a team leader is a broker owner who has maybe 8 or 10 agents that go out and take listings, and a big part of their job description at the number 4 level is focusing on the leadership, the teaching, training, and coaching, the efficiency, the accountability, and the nurturing of those listing agents. That becomes a team leader. Now, I like to focus most of my study most of the study for Associate Works on leadership brokers, legacy brokers, and iconic leaders. Because even if I only want to run a mom and pop real estate shop, even if my only goal is 40 agents that do $1 million each, so that's $40 million a year, that's my goal, that's my income, that's my perspective on the real estate industry. Even if my goal is only to get to $40 million a year, I believe there are clues left by the leadership brokers, the legacy brokers, and the iconic leaders that make my job more efficient and easier to do at 40 million. See, if I study someone that does 400 million a year and I only aspire to get to 40 million a year, I'll bet you there's still some cherries that I can pick off of that legacy broker or that leadership broker or that iconic leader in the industry that I could mimic or model in my brokerage. Well, one of them is to study what top tier brokers do when they recruit. You know, Fox and Roach in the Northeast, or Weichert, or Michael Sanders, or Watson Realty. And if you know these names, these are mega brokers that manage between 1,500 and 2,000 agents in most cases. Some of them are 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 agents. I think that if you monitor what they do and you study what they do, you're going to find that there's some things that are easy to copy. And let's just put aside our ego for a minute and say, oh, I hate Watson Realty. I don't even like Michael Sanders. I don't even like Weichert. Okay, but don't you think maybe there could be some clues that they do on a regular basis, that the Risk Media Power Brokers Report prints a study of the top 250 brokers in the country every year? Could you study them and maybe model some of their behaviors? Well, if you go into Facebook in the National Flagship Brokers page, you can access letter templates and recruitment ad templates that you can model, that you can decide which ones represent your culture, your ideology, your leadership vision, and say, oh, I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I can, edit, customize from these templates some really strong recruitment messaging for my local market. These are emails that were sent by top brokers in the country and proven with responses. And on these, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them. This is more or less a recap of last week's recruitment chum, the recruitment messaging conversation. But all of those are available for you on Facebook at the National Flagship Brokers page. Recruitment advertisements, templates, and pieces of equipment that you can use in your social media. Things that you can use in your Craigslist advertising, your email marketing. And if you look in the files section of National Flagship Brokers, it's all free. I'm not selling anything here. You've got an opportunity to go in and download it and work from this master list. And if you choose to spend a weekend, it's really difficult to cram 28 years of residential real estate recruitment experience into an hour on a Friday morning, right? But if you would take the time to sort through and investigate some of those templates, I think you'd be pleased with the content and the information that's available. It's interesting because when I was a very young listing agent, I had a natural anxiety, I would say, or maybe even a fear, certainly a healthy level of nervous energy going into a listing appointment. And I think it's because I interpreted the listing appointment as a high degree of gravity. Like I held it so important that I prepared even better than most of the agents in the community that I served. Like because I was a little nervous about it, because I was a little anxious about the listing presentation, I got myself really worked up and prepared very, very fiercely for it. And coincidentally, when I first opened my brokerage in 99 and 2000, I had the same healthy level of anxiety, the same level of nervous energy that I wanted to do a good job. And I don't know if it was insecurity or if it was just a sense of not knowing any better, but I thought that they were important. I thought that if an agent drove across town to come to my brokerage to visit with me, that I somehow believed that was a really important event. And I did a tremendous amount of labor to prepare for it. See, the sentence that's at the bottom of this page, and I encourage you to enlarge. I'm going to close my Outlook because that beep is making me mad. Sorry, there you go. When you see that sentence come across the bottom, and you think about the gravity or the magnitude of that sentence, maybe you already do this intuitively, but maybe if I think about what that agent is actually asking of my brokerage, that maybe I won't be so flip about the answer. If an agent is driving across town from Coldwell Banker, Remax, Century 21, ERA, an independent, what they're really asking is, should I entrust my livelihood with you? Should I entrust my kids going to college with your brand? My retirement is 20 years from now, 16 years from now, 12 years from now, 9 years from now. I've got 9 years left to prepare for my retirement. Should I entrust that with you as a broker owner? Are you the best one in all of Broward County that's going to take care of my retirement? Are you the best one in all of Pennsylvania that's going to take care of my kids' college education, to take care of my livelihood? Because if you're not, then I need to go work somewhere that is. And I always took that very, very seriously. So we use this formula called a recruitment storyboard to gain positive control of the recruitment presentation. We use steps, a sequence of events, an organized presentation of compelling arguments. We use this system to gain positive control of the experience that a recruit candidate is going to have when they come to my office. So prepare recruitment presentation is the first step. Reception and greeting is a very important second step. What is going to happen while they're waiting for me is this a third step. How am I going to introduce, or how is the broker owner, how is the sales manager who's in charge of the recruitment presentation going to introduce himself and or the brokerage? What's going to happen during the facilities tour is the fifth step of the recruitment storyboard. Once we've done a facilities tour and we've shown them around the brokerage, what am I going to mention as an overview of our vision for the relationship? Am I going to articulate some sort of safety to the agent about their own timing, their own sense of control in the decision making? What does our brokerage stand for? That word core ideology comes up for me a lot because Jim Collins, the Stanford business professor that focuses on Good to Great and Built to Last, these books, they talk about a thread that runs through all great companies called core ideology. In other words, what does your brokerage stand for? What are you about as a broker owner? And an agent, you say, an agent doesn't care about that. But it seems to me that mega brokers rely on culture and vision and ideology a lot more than mom and pop brokers. It seems to me that mega brokers, the Risk Media Power Brokers Report, and mega brokers with 800, 1,000, 1,200 agents rely on things like culture, vision, and core ideology more than mom and pop real estate brokers. So you say the agents don't need to. Well, wait a minute. 70,000 agents pick Gary Keller because of his vision, because of his culture, and because of his core ideology. And if you look at your local market, agents pick mega brokers because of those things. So maybe we do need to pay attention to vision, culture, and core ideology. Now, most of us would feel like the recruitment presentation starts about right now on line 3. What's the opportunity? Are there any additional opportunities? How does those opportunities match the personal aspirations of the agent? And are there any opportunities for advancement for the agent? See, a lot of brokers that I experienced, and I interviewed with about 100 brokers in the course of 28 years, because I used to make it my life's work once I opened my brokerage to either go on interviews to talk to brokers about coming to work for them, or send my subordinates, my sales manager and my top agents, on recruitment presentations. I would literally set appointments for my sales manager to go interview at my competitors so that I could hear what they had to say. And it seems to me that most people start with line 3. They always start with, oh, this is a great place to work because of this and this and this and this and this. And, you know, how does that match what you're trying to do? And then they talk about their leadership or opportunities for advancement. So line 3 is going to be where we're going to spend a little bit more time today. But having this formula, or having this, Floyd Wickman used to call it a game board, that you're moving up a space on the game board each step of the storyboard. We ended on associate-friendly policies, compensation, and fees. That was how we closed the recruitment presentation. We focused some energy on associate-friendly policies and compensation and fees. And then on every presentation that we did for a decade and a half, we offered that agent the participation in our orientation. And if they elected to say no, they're not ready to come to an orientation, then I would say, what do you think about Tuesday morning meeting for a cup of coffee just so we can kind of catch up and see what you're thinking? You can kind of digest all this information over the weekend, and then on Tuesday morning, say 9 o'clock, I'd like to take you out for a cup of coffee, and I could show you, maybe get to know you a little bit better and see if there's an opportunity. If I could close them for that follow-up appointment, or I could close them for their orientation. That was the final step in the recruitment storyboard. So this recruitment storyboard is available for you on Facebook, and I'm going to go through why a storyboard is important and then the actual steps of the storyboard and how you can use them right away. Remember, the topic for today is, what exactly should I do in a recruitment presentation? Well, when I think of the term storyboard, I think of the advancement of a screenplay. A script is the first step, a screenplay is the second step, and then finally you build a storyboard of events that are going to occur in making your movie or your play. Well, what does a play or a movie have to do with recruitment? Well, when Spielberg is creating his storyboard for Jaws, he's actually announcing his intentions to manipulate your emotions. I think that's true. I think he's orchestrating a series of events that will manipulate your emotions. He wants to gain control of your emotional state during that experience, whether it's a 60-minute television show, a 90-minute, or a 2-hour movie. His job is to gain positive control over your emotional experience. And a storyboard, if you're intentional about it, does exactly that. And it gives you positive control. Now, gaining positive control of a person is not manipulative, but manipulating the emotions, the emotional experience of the process is great salesmanship. See, the definition of sales right there above the game board is an organized presentation of compelling arguments that influence decision making. But I'm going to add the term in a particular sequence. An organized presentation of compelling arguments in a particular sequence that influences decision making. See, let's take these out of sequence. Training, leads, and split. Let's say I walk into a beautiful brokerage in Orlando, Florida, and my good buddy's there, and he's slick as snake oil. He's one of the best salesmen I ever met. Man, he could sell ice cubes to an Eskimo. But when the agent comes in the office, they get him off of his game, and all they want to know about is split. They want to talk about split first, and they've not even done any justification. They haven't done any they haven't understood why these fees are reasonable. They've just focused on split. They haven't done any kind of compelling arguments as to why the split is the split. Well, then you've let the agent control what is important about that appointment. Now look just below gaining positive control. If I'm going to entrust you with my livelihood, shouldn't I at least trust you with this appointment? Like, isn't that a funny statement? Like, you want them to trust you with the entire livelihood for their family, for their children, for their retirement, for their lifestyle that they're going to live, for their credit rating into the next decade, but they won't even let you trust you with this appointment. Well, that's the quintessential definition of why it's so important to gain positive control in any presentation. And some of the greatest salespeople online know exactly what I'm talking about. But some of you are better managers than you are salespeople. And you don't think intuitively like salespeople. Well, salespeople know that sales is about an organized presentation of compelling arguments in a particular sequence that influence decision making. So if I put split before training and leads, I might be dead. Or what if this? What if I fluff my training presentation? What if I'm, up in Indiana and I assert that we have great training, but I don't articulate the features, advantages, and benefits. I don't explain to the agent why we're so passionate about this training. I don't explain to the agents why we can affect their income by 20, 30, 40% this year. I don't explain to them how they can do 15, 20, 30 transactions a year more efficiently because of our training. I fail to tell them why systems, structure, and direction are the reason that most agents come to work here. And that 85% of the agents in Broward County or in Hoosierville County make less than $40,000 a year. And if I can't help you make $100,000 a year, I don't want you to work here. So if I didn't thump the training argument, then I moved straight on to leads, then that agent's going to perceive that leads are more important than training. The mistake that most brokers make, in my humble opinion, is they forget that they're the leader. You don't let the kindergarten student tell the kindergarten teacher what is important. The kindergarten teacher tells the kindergarten student what is important. That's called leadership. So I don't ever allow the recruitment prospect to tell me what's important to them. That is not leadership. Leadership is to explain to them why the structure, the direction, the systems are important to your career. Then when we move on to leads, I might spend a few minutes on our free websites, our text autoresponders, our lead capture, and potentially my relationship to Selectrified or my relationship to Market Leader or Boomtown Leads or Tiger Leads or one of those. So I'm going to run through some ideas about each step with the emphasis on line 3. And I hope it'll at least get you thinking. What are you going to hand the recruitment prospect when they first walk through the door of your brokerage? What does the recruitment package that you're giving to them look like? Does it express a particular vibe or a particular style? Is it kind of haphazardly thrown together with 8.5 by 11 copies? Or worse still, does the receptionist just walk up and say hi and let the person sit down and wait? What we're talking about now is an agent drove across town, walked into the lobby of your office, if you have one, and said, hey, I'm here to find out if I should entrust you with my livelihood. I'm here to find out if you're the type of leader I want to work for. And then the quality of the materials that you hand them, the glossy folder or the DVD or the full color brochure or the 3-panel brochure or the package that you hand them, is the first representation of what they think of you. So being thoughtful about your recruitment package is the reason that you don't have to give away 100% split. I just said that out loud. I've got brokers online that do the same job that I did for 100% split and a small fee, whereas other brokers do it for 30% of commission. And the brokers that are doing it for 100% think that because they're cheaper, more agents are going to work for them. Yet, more agents work for Caldwell Banker and Gary Keller than work for you. So you've already proven mathematically that agents don't just go to work for brokers based on split. But I'd rather work for you for free and get no service than work for another broker for a big split and get no service. But if I'm going to do a hell of a job in leadership, then I can charge more money. Or, I'm going to say this because I'm a realist. There are more than one ways to skin the cat. If I'm going to charge 100% split. If I'm going to charge a fee for service and I can build a profitable model in my market based on low splits per broker, I'm still better off offering a compelling leadership message than just relying on split. Correct? So now we go to reception and greeting. The young lady or the young man who works at my front desk walks up to the prospect and says some things. Do you think that Fortune 500 caliber or mega brokerage allow the $10 an hour, $12 an hour receptionist to decide what she's going to say when a prospect comes in? Or do you think that mega brokers and Fortune 500 caliber organizations teach the receptionist exactly what to say when a recruitment candidate comes in? See, there's a big difference between having a messy lobby with magazines all over the place and direct mail on the countertops and having a Fortune 500 caliber lobby. There's also a big difference between having a receptionist that was hired for $10 to $12 an hour who thinks on her own, oh, maybe I should offer this guy a cup of coffee, or says, Mr. Fitzpatrick will be out to see you in just a couple of minutes. I'd love to get you a cup of coffee or a glass of water while you're waiting. Those two pieces are intentional, and they seem little, but they're not little. Now, one of the slickest things that you can do is to create a power distance between you and your recruitment candidate. In other words, make them wait a few minutes. If you're there standing at the front desk when they come in and they don't see you as a powerful, busy professional, then they could interpret you as less than influential in their career, and maybe they shouldn't trust you with their livelihood. But if you make them wait 3, 4, 6, 8, 10 minutes, and the receptionist walks over to them and says, hey, Mr. Fitzpatrick is finishing up his previous appointment. He'll be done in just a minute. He asked me to give you this iPad and to allow you to watch this video. It's about 1.5 minutes long, and it'll explain some of the things about our brokerage while you're waiting. To hand somebody an iPad or to put them in a conference room with a video that's playing on the LED TV on the wall, or even to give them a package of materials and explain to them that you want to take an opportunity while they're waiting to go through these materials, or if you don't have any of those things, take a moment to walk through our website while you're waiting. He's going to be just a couple of minutes, and then he'll be here in just a couple of minutes. Why don't you take a couple of minutes to go through our website? I've already pulled it up. I want to show you how our search engine works and how our back-end technology works. See, any of those things in waiting, and my favorite is the iPad with a video playing on it. It's a nice handoff while they're waiting for me. Last but not least, how do you approach the interview? What are you wearing? What is the first thing that you say? I would like to think, well, I'm just going to say it. I wore a suit with a jacket every single day that I ran my brokerage. I felt like it was the finest way that I could separate myself from the agents, that every time they saw me, I would have a coat and a tie on. And some of you think that that's overkill, childish, silly, but you know what? Not if you study the top 100 brokers in the country. If you study the top 100 brokers in the country, they almost always wear a suit and a tie when they're visiting with their realtors. Isn't that funny? So what I did simply was model the behavior that I saw the top 100 brokers in the country doing. Now, a facilities tour is the next step on the recruitment storyboard. We go back to the far left, and we map out the best sequence to walk them through the facility, right down to the computers, the copiers that are available to them, the personnel, and the introductions of the personnel. And I've said this a million times. I instruct my staff that when I walk through with a recruit, that they do not have a choice. they must stand up, walk around their desk with a smile, and shake that recruit's hand and say, "It's a pleasure to meet you. Thanks for coming by. I hope to get to know you better in the future." Something that lets that recruitment candidate know during our facilities tour that our staff is there in service to them. A visionary overview could be as simple as this graph that's to the right. So we finally sit down at the conference room table, and I say to you, "John, I want to talk to you a little bit about these couple of counties in Pennsylvania that we serve. If I draw a circle around Harrisburg and blah, 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 in Pennsylvania, you're going to find that 80% of the residential real estate agents within that circle make less than $40,000 a year. And 80% of those people that work in our industry, their median income is $18,000 a year. Well, I determined that when I ran this brokerage, that I was going to ask you to entrust me with your livelihood, that you were going to have to trust me to make a living in this industry. So what our vision was is that we were going to empower emerging associates to make more money. We were going to find the productive agents and enrich their lives and make them more efficient. And we were going to work diligently to make the elite associates in this big circle more efficient. And I'm going to show you how we did that, how we do that here at ABC Realty. Safe Island. Look, I'm not interested in tossing a net over your head and convincing you to come to work for my brokerage. If I can't help you close 3.5, 4.2, 5.5 million a year, if you're not willing to apply yourself towards 6 figures of income, it would actually hurt my reputation in this marketplace to have you come to work for me. See, part of what I believe as a broker owner is that average agents that are a little bit lazy or apathetic are what hurt our industry. And those are the problems that we're trying to cure. So if you do elect to come to work with us, if you do decide that this is the right place for you to come to work, I got to challenge you to take the industry a little bit more seriously. I've got to challenge you to think about the transaction a little bit more importantly than maybe you have in the past. And last but not least, I've got to challenge you to get more out of yourself. You've got to get more production out of 2015 than you did out of 2014, or I don't consider me having done my job properly. See, when I started this brokerage, we wrote a mission statement, and we give this mission statement to every realtor that's hired, because if we can't effectively implement this mission, then we don't really want to make the hire. We want to dramatically and measurably impact the career paths of our realtor associates so that it's unquestionably the result of our relationship that they achieve predetermined benchmarks in their personal and professional life. The key terminology there is predetermined benchmarks. Those are called goals. If an agent doesn't have any goals, then how can I help them achieve those goals? If an agent doesn't have any preset levels of accomplishment, then how can I help them achieve those accomplishments? So if somebody's at 1.5 and they want to get to 2.2, I can help that. If somebody's just getting into the business and they say they need to make 50 grand a year, I can affect that. But if somebody comes to me and says they're apathetic and they're really part-time and they really don't care one way or another, and they bump into a few transactions a year and that's all they want, I can't affect change on that, can I? So I don't really want them to work for me if they're not intentional. Now I want to jump into greatest opportunity, additional opportunity, personal aspirations, and broker differentiation. We're almost done, but I know that leadership is your most valuable recruitment tool. Your personal leadership is the greatest opportunity that your brokerage has to differentiate itself and to set itself apart against its competitors. Technology's not going to do that. Unfortunately, your lead harvesting and lead capture system can be duplicated and replicated by brokers in the community. Your brand even can be replicated by another broker in the community. Profit sharing can be replicated by another broker in the community. The only thing that's unique and different about your brokerage is you. So when I say that leadership is your most valuable recruitment tool, I think of things like structure and direction and consistency, and those terms that everyone fluffs off like core ideology or values or your vision. But this paragraph or this set of statements could become a nice way to introduce your leadership. Lillian, the main reason that so many real estate agents are coming to work for XYZ Realty is that they discover that systems and structure can immediately affect their income. The reason that so many agents are joining XYZ Realty is that more agents are realizing how much systems and structure can immediately affect their income. See, most agents that come to work for us had never really developed a process for their geographic farm before. Some of the agents that work in Harrisburg or Philly never really developed a system for their sphere of influence or their past customers. And what our realtors get is the opportunity to consistently list homes using proven systems. I know from experience that very few agents use systems to list expired listings or to court for sale by owners. I know that most people at Century 21 across the street or at Prudential down around the corner don't have structure to go out and list pendants opportunities or foreclosure opportunities. We use proven systems to help our agents list and sell more houses. Let me give you some examples. If you worked for XYZ Realty at the turn of the year, we started our calendar year with a training that focused on staging. On January 3rd, we hosted a professional staging designation right here in the office, whereby every single agent in our office learned how to list more property by announcing to the real estate community that they were a staging expert. And we hosted that over the course of the first week of the 2015 calendar year. And then what we did is we gave every agent in our office letter templates, postcard templates, door hanger templates, and we gave them tools to go out and market themselves as a staging expert. More importantly than the designation itself or the certification, we gave our real estate agents the tools to list houses faster, that sell faster, and for more money. Did you know that a properly staged home sells 40% faster than a home that's not staged? And did you know that a house that is staged properly sells for 6 to 13% more money than a home that's not staged properly? Well, if you were working at Prudential, if you were working at Caldwell, if you were working at Century 21, if you were working at Remax, you would have to go out and spend, let's say, $600, $1,000, $1,500 of your own money to go out and get a staging designation. What we do here is we pay for that. We put you through the program ourselves on our nickel. And then we give you the marketing materials. We don't charge you for the marketing materials. The letter templates, the door hanger templates, the postcard templates, the email templates, all of the equipment that you need to go out and introduce yourself to your clients. Now, we do 6 events a week at ABC Realty. And if you were here last week, you would have participated in our for sale by owner CRM. You could see that on Monday at 10 and 2 here in the brokerage, we hosted a for sale by owner program. And then on Wednesday at 10 and 2, we did it again. Well, The reason that we host it over and over again is because we give our agents a system to court and follow up with for sale by owners that is proven. The system's been used for 17 years to convert over 5,000 for sale by owners during the course of the last 17 years. There's about 2,000 agents nationally that use the e-bowl system, and if you were here last week at our brokerage, you would have been able to take advantage of that CRM. Now, don't worry if you join our company. If it becomes important enough to you to join our company, then you're going to have the opportunity to take advantage of it, because I have the ability to put you through the system again and again and again, or you can wait for the next one to come along. But e-bowl was last week. This week, coming up, we're focusing 100% of our brokerage energy Monday and Wednesday on the expired listing gold mine. See, we're not only going to give you the tools to farm the expired listings, but we're going to show you the exact scripts and dialogue and letter templates that we use to convert expired listings to MLS listings. So you have an opportunity to take advantage of, had you been working here in the month of January, you would have had the opportunity to take advantage of our staging system, our for sale by owner conversion system, and this week our expired listing conversion system. Now that's just the beginning, because our brokerage really stands for systems and integration. So what I want to show you is that if you do come on board with our brokerage, coming up in February, I can barely see that, we're going to be starting a program called Farming Fridays, where we're going to focus on your geographic farm area. And we're going to teach you intensively exactly how to farm a 600 home subdivision or 1,000 home subdivision. And we've got some free systems that you can take advantage of right here at our brokerage to take advantage of farming programs that don't cost you any money. See, in most of these cases, we pay for this stuff. You don't ever have to write a check. So if you ever aspired to farm an area of 1,000 homes, 1,500 homes, 2,000 homes, we have an opportunity to do that without any money out of your pocket. And we do that in a 9-week coaching program called Farming Fridays, and it starts up again in February. The last one I want to share with you about how much our brokerage is committed to structure and direction for you and how we build systems for you is in a program that we use for past customers called our Customer First certification. Our Customer First professional designation focuses on past customers, repeat and referral business. What we find is that most agents don't have a system for courting their past customers. So the first week of February, we're going to be focusing on past customers for a solid week. And the reason I do this at my brokerage is because I believe that there's an extra 5, 7, 10 transactions closings for 2015 if you just work your past customers and your sphere of influence. We have a system that walks through how to get feedback, how to have a stress-free closing, what to do just before a closing, and what to do just following a closing to help you manage your past customers and your sphere of influence in a completely different way. And these systems are all free. We pay for them at our brokerage so that you don't have to write a check for all your training. I'm going to share with you a little bit more about what makes our brokerage different real quick. I think the key is lead generation and lead capture. If you were to ask 100 agents that work for me why they work for me, the first reason they would give is systems and structure and direction. That we give them proven systems and structure and direction that help them make more money. But the second reason that they're going to give you is probably has to do with our lead systems and our lead technology. So some agents choose to work for our brokerage simply because of our technology. No one has invested more in the area of lead generation and lead capture than we have. I pay for every agent in our office to have the most advanced suite of marketing resources. When you take a listing at ABC Realty at our brokerage, you'll take advantage of our programming and our capital investment. We don't leave it up to the agent to decide which listings should be marketed properly and which ones shouldn't. I think if you were to ask most of the agents that work here why they work here, most of them would first and foremost say teaching, training, and coaching and the systems and structure that we talked about for a few minutes. But the second reason that they would give is that we don't let them decide which listings they'll market properly. We pay out of our pocket to make sure that every listing is marketed properly. And we do that. And let me show you some examples of how we do that and why we do that. I believe that this is the second greatest opportunity for working for our brokerage. We do that with a program that we call My Work Suite. It's paid for entirely by us at the brokerage. You never have to pay a dime for it. But what we do is we build a website for every single listing that you take. That every single listing that you take from now on is going to get its own domain name and its own listing website. And in that website, you're going to be given a text code to capture the leads that come in on that listing. So for example, if it was on Craigslist or in Facebook, or if it was on Zillow or Trulia, if it was in Realtor.com, certainly if it was on a sign rider, buyers are going to be able to click on a particular code, and then that code sends an instant message back to the buyer. And when you're sitting there at your son's soccer game, you don't have to take the call. You capture the lead right on your smartphone right then when that buyer inquires. And then you can follow up with that lead when it's convenient for you, or certainly at the next available moment. The other thing we pay for at the brokerage that most brokerages don't, you know how most brokerages let you decide as an agent which listings are going to get marketed well and which ones aren't? You know, if you have 10 listings in your inventory, you're not going to do the same thing for all 10. Well, because we pay for it, we find that agents will do the same thing for all 10. And an example would be, does every listing that you take make it onto your Facebook page? And is it mapped? And is there an app that automatically updates your Facebook page every time your listing gets a price change or a comments are changed, or any time that you add pictures to it? One of the coolest things about our brokerage is that because we pay for this technology and that you don't have to, that our agents are more inclined to use it. See, when I was with a national franchise company, when I was with another company, they used to nickel and dime the agent. So every agent would have to decide $20 a month, $30 a month, $40 a month for each system. So then some agents would use the systems and some wouldn't. We decided across the board here at our brokerage that we were going to pick up the tab. We were going to pay for it so that the agents didn't have to decide which listings got proper marketing and which ones didn't. So that every listing that you take gets a single property website, text auto response, virtual tours, Facebook posts, Craigslist posts, and ultimately single property website. So we're very, very proud of that initiative. I think that teaching, training, and coaching is first. I think that the technology is second. I want to end our conversation on some policies that we feel make it more comfortable for you to work here. When you go on vacation, we require that another agent cover for you. And we don't charge you any money for that. We've been managing this policy for when realtors go on vacation for years, because we think you should work hard, but we also think you should play hard and that you deserve the downtime. So I'd like to share with you my written policy on how and when and why realtors go on vacation. By the way, guys, these policies are in writing on the Facebook page. I want to talk to you about my policy when you buy or sell properties on your own. When your name is going to be on the closing statement, we make a special consideration for you to buy and sell properties of your own. We have one of the most liberal policies for your own purchases of any brokerage. I'd like to show you what that is. Now, mine was you pay a flat $500 fee. You could buy or sell any property, but your name had to be on the contract and your name had to be on the closing statement. If it was your mother, your sister, your wife, and your name wasn't on it, you didn't get that discount. Closing table concessions. This is our policy. If you're at the closing table and the buyer and seller are fighting over a $300 chandelier, this is our written policy. Again, these policies are in the Facebook National Flagship Brokers page, and you can access these policies. We don't suggest our policies should be your policies. We just give you copies of our policies if you want to amend them, edit them, restructure them. That's certainly within your entrepreneurial leadership. What we recommend is that you have a policy. Isn't that funny? Because so many brokers go without formal policy. We have a policy about favoritism and nepotism. We need everything to be transparent here. In some brokerages here in Harrisburg, the great leads seem to always go to the broker's wife, or the good leads always seem to go to the top producer. What we decided is we wanted everything to be transparent here at our brokerage, and we eliminated formally the opportunity for favoritism in lead dispersal or even personal referrals. When they come in, there's a rotation that happens for leads and referrals inside of our brokerage. So you could always monitor what leads came in and what referrals came in and who got them and why. It's a written policy that our brokerage adheres to regarding eliminating favoritism. Nothing used to tick me off more at my old brokerage than seeing the top producers get special treatment, and we eliminated that. We have a policy for commission advances. Sometimes you'll have a closing on Wednesday and the commission check's not due until Friday, and you want to know how you can get your hands on a little bit of money. We have a partner that makes commission advances on our behalf. It's a very simple system. We're happy to process it for you. If you use our in-house title company, we process the commission immediately at the funding table. If the closing's being done outside of our title company, we have to wait for the check to come in, and it takes 2 days to process. But because we're using our in-house, we can transfer the money through wire right away. If the other title company will transfer the money via wire or can get to me the money faster, I can do it a little bit quicker, but this is our process for commission processing. I have an institutional advertising grant policy where we will match you dollar for dollar on monies that you spend on certain types of advertising, like bus benches, cable television, billboards. We want to encourage you to do bus benches. We want to encourage you to do cable television advertising. We certainly want to encourage you to consider billboard advertising, and in order to encourage you to do so, we offer grants. There's a formal application that you make. When you make that application, it will be reviewed and a response will come back to you. Don't assume that a particular institutional advertising will be approved for a grant. There's a limited amount of funds per year for grants, but if you qualify, we will match you dollar for monies that you spend on institutional advertising. We talked about your own aspirations to become a leader. You could become nominated for our mentor program. If you're nominated for our mentor program, you'll have the opportunity to run a brokerage inside of our brokerage. What that means, you'll be assigned 3, 4, 5, 6 agents, and you'll take a ride on their split. We do that because some agents need a little bit more hands-on leadership, and our mentorship program has proven to create an apprentice type relationship where you can actually go on listing presentations with them. You can meet their buyers in the conference room, and because you do that, you'll enjoy a portion of their commission. So it is very much like operating a brokerage inside of a brokerage, and we've built that mentorship program for you in case you're an agent that wants to grow into a little bit more of a leadership role. I want to end our conversation on our splits, our E&O insurance, and our franchise fees. You got to become very, very pragmatic and matter of fact about your fees. You lay them out at the end of the presentation as if it's a matter of course, as if it's a matter of fact. There is no negotiations. This is what we do. This is how we do it. This is how successful we are. And this is where you want to come to work. I never apologize for a franchise fee. I never apologize for a $300 an annual E&O fee. I never apologize for a 60, 70, 80% split. If that's the split that agent was going to be on in my office, I laid it out and explained to them why that was their split for that period of time, and if they grew their production, why it would go up. If you happen to be 100% office, go ahead and think about padding your profitability with E&O, and think about padding your profitability with an annual fee. If I were going to open a 100% shop in 2015, I would pad at least $200 to $300 a year in E&O fees onto the initial sign-up. The reason I would not collect E&O fees per transaction is because it's more profitable for me to collect $250 when they sign up and come to work for me. I would not apologize for an annual fee. If I prorate my annual fee due in June and you come to work for me in January, we prorate it for the balance of that year, and then it's due again in June. The reason I would charge an annual fee if I was a 100% brokerage office is because everybody else is doing it. RE/MAX does it, Prudential does it, Exit does it. Most of the national franchises charge an annual fee, so why shouldn't I charge a $200, $300, $400 annual fee? So those annual fees and E&O franchise fees augment the split discussion. If you've done a good job in your recruitment storyboard, you don't have to apologize for your fee structure. So I know that this is my little soapbox that I get on whenever we do broker only forum. I know that my style is not for everybody. I also know that there's more than one way to skin a cat. But if anything that I've ever stood for in the real estate brokerage business, it's that the most important hour in your life, the highest return on invested time in your real estate career, is the recruitment presentation. So getting it very, very intentional about that recruitment presentation is the most valuable work you can do. So I laid it out the best I could in an hour. I'll turn it back over to you guys. Carrie Krumenacker is going to discuss the opportunity in associate level orientation and imprinting. Simply stated, what do Fortune 500 companies and mega brokers do the first week that an agent comes to work? That's what Carrie's going to focus on January 23rd at 10 and 2. You can come to the 10 a.m. vehicle for live, or you can come back for the recorded session at 2. But I think that ink in red could dramatically affect not only the recruitment, because when an agent's excited about coming to work for you, they tell their friends, but it also affects the retention. It makes them part of feeling like they're part of something that's bigger than themselves when you do a Fortune 500 caliber orientation and imprinting. So the question will be answered on January 23rd. What do Fortune 500 companies and mega brokers do the first week you come to work? That's Broker Only Forum, Friday, January 23rd. My pleasure, my privilege, certainly an opportunity for us all to get together. Please post on the National Flagship Brokerage page questions, thoughts, feedback, anything that you have that might be a best practice for you in your local brokerage that you're proud of. Throw it in there and see if maybe it stirs up some conversation about running a brokerage more efficiently. That's the Broker Only Forum for the 16th of January 2015. Certainly appreciate your time and attention.